I told my mother-in-law she cannot call my daughter by a nickname that isn't her name, and I haven't backed down. My daughter's name is June. We chose it because it was my mom's name. My mom died when I was 26, 4 years before June was born, and I spent every one of those years knowing that if I ever had a daughter, her name was already decided. My husband knew that before we were even engaged, so when she was born, we named her June, and that was that. My mother-in-law Diane started calling her Junie B in the hospital. I let it go because June was a newborn and Diane was excited, and I had about 1,000 other things going on. But June is 18 months old now, and Diane still calls her Junie B every single time. Every single visit. Come here, Junie B. Look at Junie B go. Oh, Junie B, you're just so smart. I said something the first time when June was about 8 months old. I kept it easy. I said, hey, we're really trying to make sure she learns her actual name, so if you could just call her June, that'd be great. Diane laughed it off, said, it's just a little nickname. Grandmas get to have nicknames. My husband was standing right there and didn't say a word. I should have made it a bigger deal in that moment, but I didn't want to turn a small thing into a whole thing, so she kept doing it, and I let it go a few more months because I didn't want to be the person who makes an issue out of a grandma nickname. Then June started talking. Not full sentences yet, just single words, pointing at things, recognizing sounds, and I started noticing she'd turn her head when Diane said Junie B before she'd turn it when I said June, which fine, babies respond to sounds they hear often. But then one afternoon Diane was over and called out Junie B across the living room, and June looked right at her and said B. Just sat there, pleased with herself, said B. Diane made it a whole production. Clapping, laughing. That's right, you're my Junie B, yes you are. I waited until Diane left and told my husband I needed her to stop. He said I was overreacting, that it was a term of endearment and June obviously knew her real name. I said the point wasn't whether she knew her real name. The point was that Diane had already been asked once, ignored it, and was now teaching our daughter to respond to a name we didn't give her. He said teaching her to respond was a stretch for what was basically a grandma being affectionate. I asked him to talk to her anyway. He said he would. He didn't. 3 weeks later, Diane came over for Sunday lunch. She walked in the door, picked June up off the floor, and said, how's my Junie B today? I let it go all through lunch. When Diane was getting her coat to leave, I said, Diane, I need you to call her June. Not Junie B. Just June. She looked at me like I'd said something unreasonable. It's a nickname, sweetheart. I had one for her father when he was little too. I said, this is different. She said, I honestly don't see how. And that was the moment I said the part I'd been holding back. I said, her name is June because it was my mother's name. My mom is gone, and that name is the only piece of her I get to hold on to. I need you to respect that. Diane went quiet for a second. Then she said, well, I'm sure your mother would have thought it was sweet. I don't know exactly what my face looked like, but my husband told me later it went completely still. I said very quietly, you didn't know my mother. Please don't tell me what she would have thought. Diane made this sharp exhale and said she'd just go then and left. My husband said I was harsh, that Diane wasn't trying to erase my mom. She just loves June and wanted her own little thing with her. I said that was fine. She could have her own little thing with June that didn't involve calling her by a name we didn't give her. He went quiet after that. Diane called 2 days later. She said she was sorry if she'd upset me, but she still felt the nickname was harmless, and she hoped I could see that her heart was in the right place. I told her I appreciated the call. I told her my answer wasn't changing. Call her June or don't call her anything. She hasn't been over since. My husband says I should soften a little. His sister sent me a long text about how Diane cried for most of the afternoon. My father-in-law left a voicemail that said something about how grief can make a person rigid. Her name is June.